The next line of the next panel. Would both of you agree to do that?
Senator, our practice is to do one round, one panel, and another round.
I understand that, but if that will stay, I want to respond to one of his questions. Secretary Fitzgerald talked about how good a treatment President Gbagbo is going and is getting, and that's not true. And I want to show you it's not true, but if you leave before I get a chance to show the other panel, I'll be quite upset. You'll be happy to stay.
I'd be happy to stay for as long as you'd like, sir.
Each a question. How many times have you been in Abidjan, Mr. Fitzgerald?
3 times, sir.
How many times have you been, Ms. Lindbergh?
I have not.
Okay. First of all, let me just ask you 2 questions, Secretary Fitzgerald. First of all, you heard what I said about the election.
Yes, sir.
In terms of the fact that we showed that 94,000 in just one region was taken out, was intentionally miscalculated. That's an official record. They said that this is it's a fraudulent document. Now, I sent you a letter and told you to check that out. Tell me why it's fraudulent.
Sir, I can't say whether it's fraudulent or not.
Okay,
we based our decision on accepting the results of the election because of the certification process by Secretary General Choi.
That isn't the question. They said it was fraudulent, and we tried to get the State Department to say why it was fraudulent.
Excuse me,
You're
Senator.
representing the State Department, and I'm asking you, do you have any evidence that it's fraudulent? Just yes or no is fine, because I don't want to run.
Senator, I can't say whether it's fraudulent or not.
Okay. Put up that one picture there that shows, you talked about reconciliation and that Ouattara was going to be inviting some of the cabinet and some of those individuals from Gbagbo's administration to join in. Here's one right here, the top right picture. That happens to be the Secretary of Interior, is it? Minister of Interior. They shot him first in the face. This is the Ouattara forces. They left him to die a slow, painful death. Is this being inclusive of putting their people into the Ouattara?
Senator, thank you. No, absolutely not. I share with you the same repulsion and revulsion towards any egregious human rights violations like that. However, it was a combat situation, I'm sure. It was conflict. It was wide open. It was very difficult.
No, this was after it was over.
Sorry?
This was after it was over, Mr. Secretary.
Excuse me? I thought you said, sir, that in fact the conflict is still going on.
No, I was saying that this occurred after this conflict was over in the area where they were gathering up their supporters. I have personally talked, don't interrupt me. I've personally talked to friends of Gbagbo. People are on the cabinet and others whose names I wouldn't use because they would be summarily executed, and you know that as well as I do. I want to ask Ms. Lindborg a question. We had 3 areas where very large numbers of people were killed, either by the Ouattara forces, such as in the town, put that one up first, of Dequai. I would like to ask you, do you have any idea of how many people were murdered in Dequai? And this, I hasten to say, is after it was documented that the Gbagbo forces were gone. About how many people? Do you have any idea? I mean, it's been several weeks now. Do we have a number of how many people have been killed?
My understanding is that they're still determining what are the exact numbers, and as Mr. Fitzgerald indicated, the holding people accountable will be a critical part of the healing process.
Well,
and so we're looking.
The healing process is the first thing you want to do is see how many of these people. Well, let's just skip now from there to the UN and the French bombing of the in Abidjan. Which one? Do you have one of those? We have several of that. Yeah, this area here, as I said, and I know that you say you haven't been there, and the Secretary Fitzgerald's been there 3 times. I've been there 15 times, and I've been over every square inch of this area down there. I've walked through and seen, and even commented, why would they have all these people moving into this area? If it ever blew up, there'd be hundreds, maybe thousands of people that would go with it. There they are right there. Do you have an accounting of how many people were killed during that bombing? And this was one that was the French and the United Nations. We have the pictures of the helicopters. Do you have any? Do you have a round figure within 50,000 people of how many have been killed in that particular incident? I'm asking you. Yes.
I don't have an exact accounting, and we, as I just mentioned, I understand that they're still looking at determining that. And you know, the really critical piece of looking forward for a country that's been gripped in conflict for the last decade is determining how, through the various mechanisms, the Dialogue, Truth, and Reconciliation Commission, the ICC, the Commission of Inquiry, how these mechanisms can enable us.
I don't want to be rude, Ms. Lindborg, and you're a very nice person, but let's just don't get into a different subject. I'm talking about what happened. Get the third group. I'm going to ask the question, simple yes or no. Put up the one of the all the kids. These are the human shields surrounding the palace. The kids didn't have any armaments other than some wood sticks and baseball bats. There they are. All 4 pictures are there. The question I would ask you, do you have an accounting? This should be a lot easier, accounting of how many of these kids were killed.
Senator, we completely share your concern and your sense of outrage at what may have happened. And the for us, the focus was on providing humanitarian assistance as quickly as and effectively as we could.
Let me ask
going forward.
My time's about to expire. Let me just, I know the assistance, you spent your opening remarks talking about assistance. That's not the subject right here, at least with me. With the two of you, we are concerned. I think everyone in here should be concerned about reconciliation. Would you be willing, when you stop and consider the alternatives, one would be to turn them over to the International Court, which means it's over, they're gone forever. Then you're going to have, you know what's going to happen, there'll be martyrs and all kinds of things can happen. You've weighed these things. I think everyone in this room has. One of the most logical things I would think would be to allow them to go into exile. Would the two of you agree that that would be an act of reconciliation that is worth pursuing?
I think there was a time for that, sir. Now is not the time. They've been captured. They're drawing up charges. The Commission of Inquiry is investigating. The ICC apparently is poised to send a team down. If they are found guilty of crimes, they need to serve the time. Well, that is the accountability that we were looking for, sir.
Well, that's what I thought you would say. And by the way, I have to add that this offer was made long before. When you say this wasn't the time, this offer was made when the time was there. And I know I'm out of time on this panel, but I would only say that I believe in my heart, and after going there, that this would be the best solution. There have been offers from all around, and Mr. Fitzgerald, when you talked about the African Union, you heard the quote that I gave on President Obiang. You talked about the South African president, Mbeki, and his comment. I think the one thing that most of the presidents that I have talked to, all of them I personally talked to, and that's quite a few of them because I know most of them, have all concluded one thing, and that is the way this was done, the outsiders coming in, the French coming in, the United Nations coming in, and making this happen was something that is very, very offensive, something that reverts back to the old colonial days, and they find it very offensive. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator. Ms. Lindborg, Secretary Fitzgerald, thank you so much for coming today, for your testimony, both